Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Douglas Hill, co-director of Pasadena Photography Arts. I want to thank you for joining us. The forum is sponsored by Pasadena Photography Arts, a project of the nonprofit Emerge program at Fulcrum Arts. Our mission is to bring a greater awareness of photography to the east side of Los Angeles and to help emerging photographers achieve visual and creative success at all levels. Pasadena Photography Arts presents a monthly program here on Zoom. The forum alternates with open show each month. These programs are free to attend, but they cost money to put on. To keep them free, we ask that you donate whatever you can by visiting our website, pasadenaphotographyarts.org, and clicking on one of the hard-to-miss donate buttons. For those of you who have not experienced Open Show, it's an international platform now in 31 cities in 15 countries, designed to give photographers at all levels an opportunity to show and discuss their creative projects. If you would like to submit your project to Open Show, go to openshow.org, select Submit a Project, then scroll down to our venue. We are OS-Pasadena East LA. Since we began, we've helped over 130 photographers get their work in front of an audience, many of them for the first time. While we welcome your donation, we also want your feedback. If you have comments or suggestions, please email us at one of the addresses on our website. One great way you can help us is by underwriting one of these events. Email us to find out how. You can follow us and like us on Facebook and Instagram. And I'd also like to point out that although the audience will be muted for the duration of the event, everyone will have the opportunity to type questions and comments into the chat box whenever you like. The event is also being recorded and will be made available on Pasadena Photography Arts YouTube channel. Tonight, Lebanese-American documentary street photographer and filmmaker Michael Rababy has said that he likes to take pictures of people. He studied art history at the University of San Diego before spending time in Paris. His ethnographic documentary book, American Bachelor, which details the highs and lows of the single male, was followed by the publication of Folsom Street Food Court, an irreverent take on the annual street fair in San Francisco. His photography clients and credits include the Vice magazine photo book, Mercedes-Benz, the Style Network, People magazine, LA Weekly, the Sundance Institute, and L'Huile de la Photographie in Arles, France. His street photography was featured in Girlfriend Confidential, LA, and he was the official portrait photographer for TLC's series, LA Inc. Michael also curates photography exhibits at the Hive Gallery in the downtown LA Arts District. His short film, Still Lives, premiered at the Palm Springs International Short Film Festival and was an official selection of the Miami Short Film Festival. His film, January Man, screened at an official selection at the Boston International Film Festival. Michael now lives in Los Angeles and is currently at work on his latest devastating masterpiece. Sorry, things have locked up on me.
What's up? We see the slide.
Now I got it. Yeah, okay. And when we're back to real people, I'd also like to mention that Michael has very generously donated 3 copies each of American Bachelor and California Love, a visual mixtape. Those books will be auctioned off to anyone who made a donation to this evening's event. If you want a chance to win one of these very handsome publications, there's still time to make a donation via the Pasadena Photography Arts website. Winners will be drawn tomorrow. Welcome, Michael.
Hey, great to be here. Thank you.
Thank you for
I
being
did,
with
I
us.
did remove the word devastating from my bio. It was kind of a reference to a rapper's delight, but it just seemed a little too much. So, but thank you.
Sure. Devastate us.
Great. So ready? We're here to talk about the book, California Love, a little background on me. I've had 2 previously published books, which Douglas just mentioned. American Bachelor came out a few years ago, Folsom Street Food Court. And I'm also a curator at the Hive Gallery. This will be my 7th year. We have an opening coming up on March 6th. And the theme this year, which is the continuation of the theme last year, is California Love, a visual mixtape. So I'll talk about how that kind of started. Basically, the themes are different every year. I've been doing photography since I was a late teenager, 19 years old, studying in Florence, Italy. Picked up a camera, took a film class, just fell in love with the darkroom, did many romantic all-nighters, just like obsessing over dodging and burning prints. And then I got into curating a little later, probably because I used to throw parties in high school, and I was kind of the Bill Graham of my high school, throwing large parties, organizing people. So that kind of parlays into corralling artists into doing shows. And the Hive Gallery's been around for about 17 years. And 7 years ago, Nathan Cartwright, who runs the gallery, tapped me to be the curator. And so we've had different themes for every year. We had street photography. We did naked versus nude. We did film versus digital. We did, anyway, so when 2020 came around, I knew that it was an election year, and I'm pretty political. I'm super progressive. So I knew it was going to be a very contentious election, and wanted to do kind of my contribution to 2020, to the election year. And so I came up with the idea of celebrating California for all it is, our progressive state. And the show was really great. I had probably the most pieces in the gallery. I tend to do shows salon style. They're very inclusive. We had, I think, close to 50 artists in the last show, and it was pretty packed. But we had a packed show opening night, and then COVID hit like days later. So unfortunately, the show wasn't really seen by too many people, although the opening was great, and we had art walk following that. So starting around March, I kind of shifted gears, and I love doing books. I collect photo books. I have a huge library behind me. I used to collect records. Now my obsession's fine art photography books. And I think for photographers, it's different from other visual artists. It's different from sculptors or painters, where you could recreate your work pretty fairly accurately. Obviously, it's not replacing looking at a fine art print in person, but we're pretty lucky in that we're able to get a lot of our work out there with fine art photography books. So that's a passion of mine. So I shifted gears, started getting people together who were both in the show and other photographers who I've curated over the years, and put together this 320-page masterpiece, California Love, a visual mixtape, which many of you have already seen. If you haven't, it's available online through LACP. It's at a lot of great bookstores, Arcana in Culver City, Hennessy in Ingalls, Skylight in Silver Lake, fantastic bookstores. And it's really great to support independent bookstores now through COVID, since Jeffrey Bezos and Amazon is taking a huge chunk of book sales, and has been for a while. But yeah, so I have a slideshow which we could get into here. Let's begin here. So, pardon me. Let's go here. All right, you guys can see this, yeah?
We got it. And Michael, as you're going through, if you wouldn't mind keeping this question in the back of your mind, which is, do you have a favorite photo in the book? Adam Greener has asked.
Oh, well, it's like Sophie's Choice. I can't I can't pick just one. I have many favorites. Actually, that's a good question though, because, in my curating of the shows, I have artists who just assume that they're just going to put in whatever they want to put in, and it's just an open invitation. And I'm very critical, both in the shows and also in the book. And some of the people here on the Zoom feed can attest that it's an open conversation, and I'm prepared to have this conversation as long as it takes. But ultimately, I really have to be happy, because I really feel like my shows, they have to be filtered through one person. It's like the too many cooks thing. I don't want to have too many. if you have too many people involved, it's going to be a different book. Sorry, I think I just switched it off here. Sorry, give me one moment here. There we go. And so anyway, so yeah, so every photo in the book and in the shows that I do is handpicked by me. So here's the cover, which was an interesting choice because, and I had a lot of photographers who I'm sure were not completely sold, would have been completely sold on this cover. So I strategically did not reveal the cover to any of the photographers in the book until after everyone was signed on and ready to go. And I spent a lot of time developing the cover with Damon Robinson, who's the illustrator artist. I've actually known him for a very long time. He did my last 2 books as well. And I like having collaborations with people. I have a printer at Sammy's, Roger, who I've worked with for years. And I like the fact that that's what he does. He prints for at least 40 hours a week. He does a lot of overtime. I'm sure it's more than 40 hours, but you know, I like to be able to focus on photography or focus on curating, and these collaborations with people that I really value. And so funny enough, this is when COVID hit and Damon took his family. He had an opportunity to go to Kauai in Hawaii. So, which I feel may have inspired this graphic as well. So I think Debbie and Ellen, you guys probably had comments about the cover or your first impressions, maybe.
It was a little radical, but I grew to adore it, actually. You know, it was not what I had thought of a photography book, but I have to say, I said this the other day, it was pretty spot on.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, one of the things that, here, let me pop out for a second just so I could kind of show it. Maybe it's not going to work.
Yeah, I should point out, I forgot to mention that both Debbie Arluck and Ellen Friedlander, who are on the call tonight, are both contributors to the book. They're both photographers and members of Pasadena Photography Arts Advisory Board. So that's the reason Michael is talking to them the way he is.
This will be more of a conversation. Yeah, exactly. So anyways, this is a JPEG of the cover, but I'll show the cover a little later when I'm live. But the idea with this is to have something that really pops when you're at a bookstore or at a library and you're confronted with a huge sea of books. I wanted something that really grabs you, at least like piques your interest to say, what the hell is in this thing? And let me pick this up and get into it and see what's going on in here. So that's the cover. We'll move on. So this is, and also, you know, I'm working with 110 photographers in the book. You know, it's really tricky. Like, what do you do for the cover? I like the illustration because it piques your interest. It gets you into it, and then once you open it, you enter the world. And also, it's really the safest way to travel through California these days. You know, in the days of COVID. So this is the image that's on the back cover, which is kind of I try to photograph what was happening in my mind as I was making the book, and as you can see, there's mixtapes. I'm really into music. I've been obsessing over music ever since my probably junior high school, and I would regularly obsess over making mixtapes, then making mixed CDs, and now it's digital playlists on Spotify. And really obsessing over the order of the music, which version of the song. At the time of cassette, it's like if it's a 90-minute or 120, you have like 45 minutes or so to work with on the on the tape so then you want like the last song to kind of perfectly fit on it because you're going to make copies of the master. And in a way, I approached the book like making a mixtape. It was a collection of all my photographer friends' work, friends and colleagues' work. And photographers really normally want to present a body of work, and which is great, artists in general, because and then you move on from something, you want to stay fresh and work on something else. But this wasn't that. This was a collection this was my greatest hits of all of the work that I'd curated, and so this is kind of a visual representation of that in a way. So I'm going to show a couple of my pieces, and then we'll go into the other pieces. So this was taken at the border of Tijuana. I took California, not literal to the actual borders as they are now. I mean, I'm acknowledging that California was a part of Mexico, and this is taken from Tijuana, looking over the border into San Diego. This is one of my images that's in the book. This is just a fun, so I love the craft of photography, but I also love just snapshot photography. And this is my grandmother from Parma, Ohio, visiting California and seeing the coast. And as I'm driving, I just grabbed my little Olympus and just shot this as I'm driving. But it really captures a mood. And this is more of a personal note, but something that draws me, and you'll see this throughout the book, is I'm really drawn to emotion more than a perfectly crafted photo. So that's something you'll see.
It has a great feeling in that image. You can see her fingernails, and even though it's out a window, it almost looks like there's a big painting in the background, you know, and she could just be moving.
Yeah. And also this was taken out of a moving car. This is in Long Beach. Most people who live in Long Beach point out that this is a pretty notable music shop. It's been around for ages, family run. But it's interesting how just the choice of the color of the paint on the wall just really informs the whole space, like the whole block in a way, or like this whole corner. And the light hit it just perfectly. And I really like the mood again. So now we're getting on to Andy House. So this image really captures California to me. Los Angeles, you know, you have the reflection of the palm trees, you know, the bus driver smiling, the warm glow of the sun. I'm gonna go through here. Ave Pildes. The book has a bit of a range. It's mostly 21st century work, but you know, this is, I'm guessing, from the 80s, maybe the 70s. Ave is here. We could ask him, actually, if he unmutes. Should we ask him? Let me,
Yeah, let's ask him.
yeah, let me get him to unmute.
Where are you, Abe?
Where are you, Ave?
I'm asking him to unmute. Okay, wait, Ave, okay, I think you could unmute now. It's bottom left.
Am I unmuted now?
Yeah.
You are.
Yeah. Hi, Ave.
Okay. Hi, Debbie. Yes, it's from the last century. Sounds weird to say that, but
Yeah.
often young guys decorate their bicycles, and this one is very decorated, and the guy is very proud of the bike. So
Beautiful. So is it 70s or 80s? I couldn't.
I think it's 80s, and it's in the Crenshaw district.
Wow.
Beautiful. All right, I'm going to mute you again. We're going to move on. And another work by Ave. I'm guessing it's Alex, but who knows? This is great. People love this image. This is Basak Prince, who's the photographer. So this is at an event. If you live in Los Angeles, it's called the Blessing of the Animals. That takes place off Alvera Street, and I'm dying to go once I get my vaccine, where people bring their pets to get blessed. I think it's around Easter. So anyways, it's fantastic. I found she submitted work through LACP. Another thing to mention too is the book is a benefit to LACP. The truth is there's not a lot of money in fine art, you know, photography or fine art books in general. But I just wanted to do the book, so I just moved forward making the book, and then Ellen had the idea to have the book be a benefit for LACP. And once she suggested that, it just totally clicked with me and just made complete sense. So once we did that, then we opened it up to LACP members to submit work, and we got a ton of fantastic work, and it doubled the size of the book as well. But it's great. I really wanted to make a book that was a really big meal, that you, again, saw the cover, drew you in, and then you just had to take it home and check it out and spend a lot of time with it.
And Safi has told us, she says that she thought that the cover was a democratic way to put the cover out, you know, in terms of all of the participants that were in.
Yeah, exactly. 110 photographers. It would have been a little too messy to have 110 images on the cover, but yeah, very true. So this is interesting. This is Beau Patrick Coulon, who grew up in Los Angeles. He's now working in New Orleans. He would take trips on freight trains and just kind of like a 1930s vagabond style, with his 35mm camera and a bag of film, and capture a part of the world, and specifically a part of California that I've not seen before in documentary work. This one really pops. This is kind of this is on the cover of his small book that came out a few years ago. I was really drawn to it. But also, like, I remember talking to someone at the LACMA photo department when about the time, so God, 17 years ago, when I did American Bachelor. asking, where she thought documentary photography was headed. And she was saying that, there was more of a modern move of photographers spending a lot of time and living with their subjects and living with, what they're documenting versus just kind of dropping in and shooting and then taking off. So he definitely fits the bill. All right. Bill Zellman, working out of San Diego. I just love the image of this. This is, California, where we have I think we're tapping into the fountain of youth a little bit in Southern California and California in general. And this definitely exemplifies that. Just the joy on his face. So I found this artist, Craig Robinson, young guy in his mid-20s. He was studying at Art Center, I believe. I was at Photo LA, and just in the back, they had a section where they were showing work by students. And he's very creative. He shoots all film, and he just goes around and shoots abandoned pools. And Southern California has a real, skateboarding culture. A lot of abandoned pools are usually used for that. But this is a really interesting body of work. So he has that. There are 4 pieces in the book, but these two really work well as JPEGs. This is great. Dan Fenstermacher, based out of the Bay Area. Again, very irreverent, just captures a mood. Not something you'd see. And also in some way, very California, right? It's, it's very inclusive to all cultures. It's very irreverent, the little purple streak in the hair, very fun. Convertible. And Debbie Arluck. So we were, Debbie and I talked about this image before. The colors really grabbed me on this one. I love the tone of the blue and the green and getting it just right. This print was featured in the exhibit last year, and when she sent me a JPEG, the colors weren't exactly the same. So we went back and forth a little bit. And she's a professional printer, so Debbie, tell me about this a little bit. We talked a little bit the other day.
Well, what's interesting is, when we make work, the way we see it at the time we make it can evolve when we see it, a year later, 5 years later, whatever that is. And I was getting deeper into color when I was sending this to you. And I wanted to shift it and tweak it a little bit, make it a bit more surreal. It's a double exposure print. And so it's a mixture of the blue of the water and the blue of the sky, because it's one on top of each other. So it's not real anyhow. And what you gravitated was something that was a bit more realistic. And so I tweaked it back for you in this sense. And it's a playful sort of thing. Everything with the work, it's how we see things at a certain time. We're all growing and changing as we do it. But I'd like to ask you a question, and thank you for including me, by the way. When you were curating for the exhibit and then for the book, what was it that you were looking for? How did you want to represent California other than what you've told us? There's something else in there that you'd like to share.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, the work had to be from California, so that limited, on that note. And I gravitate more towards, like I said before, work that gives me some sort of emotion, where you see the emotion, represented in the work, or it gives me some sort of like emotional reaction to the work. And something about this piece specifically was something about the colors really resonated with me, and the feeling and the mood and the reflections and the green with the blue. And it's a really beautiful print if you get a chance to see it in person. Overall in the book, yeah, and again, like going back and forth with artists, choosing the work. Ultimately, everything was filtered through me. Everything was handpicked. All the images and of what really grabbed me, what represented California, visually, but also emotionally, and in a subversive way, politically in a way. I'm very progressive, and I wanted, most of my family voted for Trump. I'm the opposite of that, and but following right-wing social media, over the past like 4 or 5 years, you realize that people pretty much have their opinions set. It's really hard to change someone's opinion. So I don't really plan to do that. But so I really feel like the one thing that we can do is, or one thing that I could do with this book, is present California in the way that I see it. And if you look at a map of America, California is one of the most progressive states in the union. As it's one thing that it's one element that defines us, at least the west part of California. And so I wanted to present California the way that I see it and the promise of what California could be in a progressive, inclusive. And then when Gavin Newsom called us a nation state a couple months into COVID, that just like kicked me into high gear to want to get the book made. So a lot of things, both visually, mood, and also what the work was saying ultimately at the end of the day.
And did you know you were actually making an historical book as you were doing this, or did you notice that more afterwards?
I mean, I think everything we do. My degree is in art history. I knew that I wanted to make films when I was in high school, when I was pretty young. Even junior high, I had this fantasy of being a director, and videos in high school, made short films through my 20s and 30s. But for college, I studied art history because I wanted to get an experience, just a sense of what it would take to be an artist throughout different eras. So I always view, so in looking at art throughout history, I think what really stands out, to me, great art could transport you to that time that it was made in some way. Going to a museum, seeing a film, it could really transport you. So this book for me was definitely a document of the way I viewed California now in my time. 100 years from now, it'll be a different book, or 50 years from now even. So yeah, I mean, I didn't really think about it until maybe now. I'm forced to articulate it because we're talking about it, but it wasn't deliberate. But that's just how I naturally work, I guess. So all right, we got to keep it moving. We only have 45 minutes. Denise Taylor, I love this image. So I'm going to show this image, which is also paired with this image in a spread, which work really, really well together. And also in the cover of the book, which we'll see a little later too, you have, instead of power lines, I went with a windmill. It was a little more worked with my progressive agenda, but these two images work really well together. Ellen Davis, based out of, I think Grass City. She's Northern California, east part of Northern California. Holga work. A lot of us photographers have experimented with Holgas, and there's a real alchemy. Film in general, there's somewhat of an alchemy if you're not doing studio work. If you have controlled lighting and you know exactly what if you're able to control the elements, you have a better sense of what you're going to end up with. But with film, with natural lighting, and certainly with a Holga, where you don't even know where things are going to land in the frame, there's a real magic to what you can end up with. And the cool thing about Holga also, as we know, is it's medium format film, so you could make some really, really great prints out of them. Ellen Friedlander. So let's talk about this, because I had assumed that it was all composited either post or in camera, but it turns out there's
yeah, I like to play a little bit. Yeah, so we had a little tech rehearsal and Michael said to me, "Oh, did you do that in your computer?" And I said, "Oh no." I made a photograph of the barbed wire, and the city was totally blown out of, I used a really shallow depth of field. And then I came home and I had a photograph of birds that I had made, and I sent that through a litho, and I printed it so that it was just the birds. And then I put the birds on top of the other photograph, and I rephotographed it. And this was my response to social unrest in July. So I was very excited that this photograph made the book.
Beautiful. Yeah, I love it. And this one too. So this is from Ellen's extended frame series. How big have you gone with these? I know that you had one that was maybe the one that we showed last year. It wasn't, was it this piece or a different piece?
Yes, this is the one you showed, and this was like a medium size. It's like just like around 2.5 feet wide. I've gone as large as 6 feet. They're big. They can go big.
Yeah, you'd mentioned that, which is great. Yeah, I love this series.
Thank you.
And this was in California, but you also have from pretty much all over the world. You lived in Hong Kong for a little while, and did you have? Yeah.
Yes, this is my first though. This is my first LA extended frame photograph though. So super cool to have it in the book.
Happy to have it. This is incredible. Eric Davidoff, this came through LACP. Eric's based in the Bay Area. And that's the great thing about LACP. Again, a quick plug, any photographers or people interested in photography, membership's very affordable, and LACP offers many workshops on if you want to be a photographer or if you want to just learn about photography. There's a whole series on the history of photography that's launching with some really great teachers. So, Eric, among other people in the book, based in the Bay Area, member of LACP, submitted this, and people really gravitate to this.
Michael, we should let people know that LACP is Los Angeles Center for Photography.
Yes,
because not everybody knows the
correct. Not everybody memorizes every acronym that exists in America. So yeah, Los Angeles Center for Photography. Yeah, great organization. So yeah, this one I'd really gravitated towards. I actually saw this on Instagram. I was just looking for California images because I have my scope of people that I've known and curated and worked with. But for the book, I really wanted to represent all of California. So I made a effort to look out to the work that was being done in the desert, up in Northern California, not just Bay Area, but Eastern Northern California and north of the Bay Area. I'm from San Diego, but we have some people who work at the border in San Diego. So so yeah, this was taken at a county fair, I believe, and we've been lucky. We've got some really good press. We've got featured in the Guardian, and I think the Guardian ran with this on their cover page. So this is how they're iconic, and you guys did as well, actually, for Pasadena. So yeah, this one really resonates. I love the inherent humor in this. This is great. Also Bay Area artist, Frederica Armstrong, and I love what this symbolizes too. There's the famous quote: "Rather than building a wall, we should be focused on building a longer table to be more rather than excluding people. What can we do to include more people?" And this just absolutely represents that for me. And it's just a beautiful image. And especially now in the time of COVID, that just looks wonderful to be able to go to a dinner like that.
So Michael, there's a question from Catherine. When searching Instagram, did you do it by location or hashtag? Like, it's not easy to search on Instagram.
Yeah, a hashtag. So yeah, I spent months probably, and I was doing it as I was curating. I would just casually look and find people, and a lot of people are really flaky. I reached out and and said I'm doing this book, and also people don't know who I am. Maybe they think I'm trying to scam them on something. So I didn't. Maybe one out of 20 people replied. And then there'd be people who seemed interested, and then I just would never hear from them again, even after had a dialogue with them. So artists can be flaky as well. So, and it's certainly the ones who keep going and deliver the ones that end up in galleries and stuff. But yeah, this was
no artists that we know though.
Well, the ones that are in the book delivered, right? They came through. And this is Fred Brashear, who's based he teaches photography as well. He's based about 2 hours east of Los Angeles. And
here.
Oh, he's here. Great. I saw him earlier.
Yeah.
So he's if you want to maybe unmute him too, I'd love to get his take on this, because this is a very, very unique process. And the book does not have a lot of like conceptual or alternative work in it. I really wanted to be more of a literal representation of California. This work is made out of Joshua tree pulp from trees that have fallen. And then he documents Joshua trees and then does a dye transfer. If he's here, he could explain it much better than I am. And it's a lot of work.
Hi, Michael.
Hey.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, great to see you.
Great to see you too. Yeah, so the process behind the whole work was I would take these long walks, and I noticed that the construction was happening in the high desert. And during this construction, they were basically removing the trees. And so at one of these construction sites, I asked if I could have some of the raw material from removing these Joshua trees, and they agreed. And so had this material, didn't really quite know what to do with it at first, and then just kind of stumbled upon this paper making process, and it just kind of evolved from there. And then from the paper making process, lift transfer, and then putting the image of the landscape onto basically an item from the landscape. So it's not only of the desert, but from the desert as well.
Yeah, beautiful. And special thanks to Open Show I know you guys work with Open Show as well. Richard Chow and Jonas Yip presented Fred's work at Open Show Photo LA last year in 2020. And that's where I discovered his work and just was immediately drawn to it. And if you get a chance to see them in person, they're beautiful. And so with this, we went with a black background just because the texture would have gotten lost against a white paper. And that was the other thing too. The book was printed in Korea, 320 pages. It's a pretty expensive book to make. So to keep the price down, because I really try to make my books as affordable as I can. The 320-page book retails for $50. Right now, there's a special deal where you can get it through LACP for $39.99, which we could probably send a link later. For a 320-page book, that's actually a really good deal. A lot of books like this, if you go to a bookstore, you'll see 75 plus for the meal.
And people have an opportunity to win them tonight. We have lots of options, and if you haven't already donated to the raffle, you have until 11:30 tonight to do so. So go do that because it's a smart thing to do. But Michael, could you also tell us about California Love 2, a visual mixtape? I know Fred's going to be in that as well, and be curious to hear what you want us to share about the show.
Yeah, absolutely. So so it's an extension of the show from last year and the theme of the book, California Love, Celebrating California. We have, I believe, 35 artists lined up. The opening is going to be March 6th, which is Saturday, not this Saturday, next Saturday, from 1 to 9 o'clock. The gallery is very COVID safe. We're doing, you could find a link through my Instagram, or it's pretty easy to find through the Hive Gallery. And they're admitting 12 people at a time. So you can make a reservation or, probably show up, and, if it's full, just wait a little bit. But yeah, we have the opening. The show is going to run through the month of March. And then we'll have a closing event the last Saturday of the month, also from 1 to 9 o'clock. And yeah, it's an extension. It's a chance to see a lot of the work, some of the work that's in the book and additional work that was not presented in the gallery last year. So yeah, it should be great. All right, so moving on. Mark Edward Harris, fantastic photographer. This is in Joshua Tree, and really stunning the way that he captures, the subtle light coming out of the tent, and to be able to get the sky and even the detail in the rocks behind. He has a couple series he's working on. He actually made one of my favorite books called The Way of the Japanese Bath, which is a beautifully crafted book, beautifully printed, mostly black and white work. I think the new edition he has some color pieces in it. I have one of the older editions. I highly recommend checking it out. And he has a new book coming out. He's been shooting orangutans for the last couple of years. Really, really captures a real emotional element in the work, probably why I'm drawn to it. Worth checking out. Mark Edward Harris also teaches at LACP. This is just hilarious to me. They're using Pam cooking spray. This is Jamie Trueblood. He's been in LA for years. He works behind the scenes for film and television. And this is one of those things where you're just out with your camera, as much as possible as documentary photographers, and you're able to be able to catch these moments. This is also Jamie Trueblood. And there are a couple celebrities in the book that I don't mention, but a little treat for people who are here. This is actually Andrew Garfield, this was actually on the set of Spider-Man. So you assume, we live in Los Angeles, we think it's someone who's just like hanging out outside of the Chinese theater, Times Square style. But this is actually the Spider-Man himself, which is pretty funny. Don't tell anybody though, this is a secret. Jim Payne. Mainly, Jim is known for an incredible series he's been shooting, I think 40, maybe plus years. It'll be 40 years, maybe when he's done it, 40 or 50 years. Started in the 70s. Actually, let's go to that one, and then we'll come back to this. So this is what he's really known for, are these American portraits, which Debbie was involved in. She was, one of her pieces was featured, one of the pieces that she's featured in was in the exhibit last year. And you need to see these with a 3D viewer. So they don't, but I really wanted to put them in the book. So it was kind of a dialogue on how to present them. And there's a disclaimer, below that these really need to be seen with a 3D viewer. So it transports you to where you feel like you're in the room with them, with these people, and you're in their environment, and they're fantastic. So in addition to this series, Jim also shoots, he's been doing street photography for years. And so we'll be featuring some of his street photography in the exhibit at the Hive this year, as well as last year. We had this piece in the show last year. Really, again, absolutely capturing California. This is Jamie Tate, who was the photo editor of Vice magazine for a while and does fantastic work. He was really on the ball in 2020, shooting a lot of the anti-mask protests in Huntington Beach, a lot of the Trump rallies, and he just really gets in there. His Instagram feed is a must-see. I think his Instagram feed is Jamie Lee Curtis Tate. He's in the book as well, and this just really is so California to me. All right. Moving on, I want to make sure we get done. Janet Milhome. There's a quote by Chuck Close, the famous painter, and he said this a few times, where he talks about photography being the easiest art to pick up, but the hardest to really master or the hardest to find your voice in. Now, because things are even more ubiquitous with photography, with cell phones, I think that's even more true. And her work really stands out as having a unique, voice to it. She has a real unique visual language that she uses in all of her work, which I really respect. And so these two pieces, you could really tell are her pieces. Not everybody does this. Similarly, Jefferloo, working out of San Pedro now, he has a really great studio down there. There's a really cool, and again, once COVID's over, I can't wait to go down there for Art Walk. There's a really great art community down in San Pedro. I don't know if you guys have been down there. Jeff shoots with a very simple camera and has a very specific post treatment that he does, and his work really stands out. I bought his book a few years ago, or got his book a few years ago. You really just enter his world and really see what he's see how unique his work is. Another one of Jefferloo's pieces. So this is Josh Withers. He teaches at Santa Monica College and has worked in advertising for years. And he also does a lot of documenting of live events, live music events. And again, I really love what this represents. It's very inclusive. These people are really helping this guy get a good view. For those of us who are vertically challenged at concerts, it's kind of tricky. When you're in large crowds, a lot of times sometimes you can't even really see what's going on. This is just really great. Really captures a moment of joy. Julia Dean, who's I think the founder, but definitely one of the founders of Los Angeles Center of Photography, LACP.
Yes.
And again, love this. She's been doing street
That's right.
photography for years. She's taught in workshops through many incarnations throughout Los Angeles. She's been in the scene, I think, going back to the 90s, I assume. And this is one of my favorites of hers. We have a couple of her pieces in the book, and this always really stands out.
I have to say, most of us are probably here because of Julia. I want to just linger on that for a moment.
Yeah.
She has created a huge community, this photographic community. It started off with JDP workshops. It's been in 4 different locations and different iterations. And I personally, I know I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Julia.
Incredible.
A bit of homage to her.
Absolutely. So this is Justin Gard. He's doing a lot of really great documentary work bordering on like social justice work, where I don't know if you guys know, east of Los Angeles, there's an area where some homes were purchased by, I think, the city or LADWP maybe, and have just been abandoned. So there's a movement to try to get single parent families or to basically have a place to live, and so there's a real movement that he's been documenting for a while. This to me just really feels like Southern California. This isn't from that series. This really just captures California to me with the lighting and the mood. This is great. Lonnie Shavelson, also based out of the Bay Area, veteran. He was doing shows and books in the 70s and 80s, and this is and he specifically did a project that's kind of similar to California Love. He has a book called Under the Dragon, showing how the Bay Area captures, you could almost see everything in the world just within the Bay Area. And this is from that series. These are Buddhist monks. And, you know, I'm Lebanese. I grew up, you know, where a meal, a holiday meal would involve 2 weeks of preparing and countless going to stores. And I was never that into sports. I really kind of grew up in the kitchen with my grandmother and my mom, and always recruited to help roll grape leaves and stuff. So this, I just love this image, and every plate is different. I've looked at this. I've spent a lot of time looking at this image. This is just a dream to be able to go to a meal like this.
How do you get the plates in the middle?
Exactly. How do you get the ones in the middle? Ask a Buddhist. So Mark Indig, one of the hardest working photographers around. This is a great image, obviously capturing California.
And Mark's here, and he also commented it was Caltrans that you were referring to in the shot.
Great, great. Mark, do you want to tell us about this image? Let's, could someone unmute Mark or ask him to unmute?
He's got it.
This is part of a project I did called 88, the Tribal Cities of Los Angeles County. And it's about how, how over time we have coalesced into different tribes and ethnicities based on the location. As LA gentrifies, a lot of immigrant communities start finding their own places in outer cities within the 88 cities of Los Angeles. And I just went to all 88 cities and took one picture of each city that I thought would represent that city. And Malibu was one of the stops I made. And this to me was about as Malibu as you can get.
Beautiful. All right. So I'll try to speed up a little bit. It's already 6:20. So this is an image that actually Debbie, Ellen, and I were all finalists, and Fred Brashear, and maybe other people here as well at Photo LA 2020. This is a piece that I did, and again, I just really love the emotion. This was shot in Los Angeles. This was shot in Vasquez Rock, not on Vasquez Rock, but in another rock. Love this mood, and there's a mystery there too to me in the color of the sky. San Pedro, many people have photographed this, happy with the way this turned out. This is down in North County, San Diego, where I grew up, where my family still is. And wanted to mention Bodie, because a lot of us are photographers here, and maybe we all haven't heard of it, but it's just east, maybe northeast of Yosemite. That's me photographing. This is a photo that I took while I was up there. Check it out, it's Bodie. It's an old mining town that's preserved in a state of what they call it arrested decay. So it wasn't preserved. It's left exactly the way that it was abandoned, and it's really an incredible timepiece. And just again transports you back to I think the 1920s or 30s when it was abandoned. Bodie. This is in Watts. I wanted to show this because a lot of us, there's a real romanticized view towards film over digital. This was shot on 35 millimeter. And unfortunately, I'm not able to capture the detail in the face here. It works fine in the book, and depending on the size I go, but this is an example to people shooting, shooting only film, that there are advantages to digital. Like if I had a raw file and, I could go in and work with the shadows much more and get more detail in them. But I just love the spirit of this image, so it still works for me. Michael Dressel, born in East Berlin, and I think so he saw the wall fall, now is a dedicated Hollywood street photographer, does a lot of amazing work, really worth checking out. Mike Slack has several publications of his own. He has a lot of books of his own. Great guy, really helped me, advising me on how to get the book made. Something about this really captures California, as a part of California. Monica Orozco, fantastic, Cindy Sherman-esque. She puts herself into the images. This is called Divorce. And there's another work I have by her. She has a lot of work that was captured in Palm Springs. Again, love the mood, love, they're really fun. And there's a really nice spread in the book we're checking out. Nancy Haraz, a lot of people shoot the Disney Center, but somehow this really pops for me. And this is a very, very unique take on something that a lot of people shoot. Olivia Dorazio was actually from Paradise, California. Her house burned down a couple years ago. She's a younger photographer. She's in her 20s. And for her age, really has a unique style of her work. This is another one of her pieces too. So you could see her, you could see a spread of her work in the book. Highly recommend checking it out. Osceola Resitov. This is one of his more famous pieces. And then we'll kind of move on. This is Peter Cronish, who would just, was working as a bartender. I met him last New Year's Eve, started showing me some work. We hit it off, and really sharp guy, again, younger guy in his 20s. Would just, if he had a few days off, would just book a plane and go down to Guatemala and shoot, like when the caravan was happening, and you'd go down to Tijuana and shoot refugees, trying to cross over. Really incredible body of work. This is Robert Yeager, who's been shooting gangs and really capturing a sensitive side of gangs. He's been doing it since the 90s. He's also working on a book as well. This is Rowlands, who couldn't be here tonight, but he's also part of the Pasadena group. This is a series he did, which I saw at Open Show, of people, against the American flag, showing, again, the diversity of America, and I felt really specifically captures California. So Ryan Schutte, Adam Greener, not to pick favorites, but Ryan Schutte, got to check him out. Check out his book. He's still actively working. He's going to be in the show and at the Hive, opening next Saturday. I love this image, and I think I have another. Yeah, I have a couple of his here. This is in Northridge. He does really large pieces. I have some smaller, affordable ones that we're showing in the show. And this is Big Sur. These are three by him. Ryan Schutte, fantastic. Sally Ann Field. She's part of the, I think, LA street photography group. I know that this may have been done while she was at a workshop through LACP, downtown Los Angeles, but just great. So this, among other images, we have a special deal through LACP. For $100, you could get a fine art photography print, an 8x10, along with the copy of the book for $100. So they're limited to 5. Some of them are sold out. This one, I think, still might be available. That's a great deal, which you could see on our Big Cartel page. So, all right. So that's that. And just real quick, I just wanted to show a couple spreads. If I could find them here. So those are images, but if you look at the spreads, so this was my spread. This is the way that the book was laid out. So you could kind of see something I'm very active in is the relationship of the images. Could you guys see this?
No.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Let me go to share screen.
I'm watching Rinzi cook, and that his beard has grown since I've seen him since COVID.
Let's go here quick. I only have a couple of these up here. So again, I'm really so within the layout of the book, because I did want to talk about putting together the book. This is how the pieces come together. Telling a story not just within the spread, but also what you saw before and where you're going. Pages ahead. Let me see. This is Dan Fenstermacher. The two older people with the hands up, draws your eye up. The gentleman is pointing to the left. So then your eye goes to the left, and the flag's going up, the fence going up here. And I really love the way, the dynamism of the two images on the right, the way that she's, pointing up on her toes, and then he's, again, gesturing to the left, which draws you over, and then these, solitary figures. So, all right. So I've been talking a lot. Let's get back to it.
Well, you have a lot of people saying wonderful things. Polly's just said she's enjoyed the show so much. She thanks you.
Oh, great.
Jim Payne, well done. Well done, mice.
Beautiful.
Who else? Oh, someone else. Jorge said, I love this dinner farm to table company.
Perfect.
Right. And who else? And then Michael from, I'm sorry, his name is Password. He goes by Password. He said, being a product of Southeast LA, these images are very touching. Thanks for inviting me to this lovely event, and congratulations on the book.
Oh, beautiful.
We should also say, and if you have a glass to raise a happy birthday to Michael.
Oh, guys, cheers.
It's a great way to celebrate your birthday.
Absolutely.
We're so glad you're here.
Actually, yeah, I'm taking the week and probably the month. So yeah, February is a good month for me. So yeah, if anyone has any questions, or if there's a topic that there were other things to talk about, but we're kind of running like later on time. If anybody has questions or suggestions on things to get into.
Well, I have to say that the book has made it to Asia. So the book is over in the hands of several of my friends, and they all loved it.
Beautiful.
Anybody else on the call that's, it's Michael, I have to say you did, again, a really interesting job of creating a book that's not at all typical. I don't look at a page and think, oh, I've seen that photograph before. It's such a journey, and that's exactly how you described it to me when you sold me on it.
Great. Yeah. So yeah, this will be interesting because I think Safi, I just see is here. There are a few people in the book, but maybe specifically with Ellen and Debbie. You guys could talk. I guess we could ask what your impressions were. Because I didn't really know you. I think I'd met Debbie before, but I don't think I knew you before the book kind of came together.
No, you didn't know me. We met once. Yes. Well, I can share this. There's several people on the call that will understand this, but we used to call it being Rababied.
Great.
Yeah. So I would send you pictures. You would send them back. You would say no. I would send more pictures. You'd say no. And then we went back and forth. And then we had a little dialogue among us participants that were like, oh, okay, well, we've been Rababied. So there you go.
Beautiful, beautiful. I fully accept. I fully accept that honor. Yeah, but again, an artist should be uncompromised. I try to be inclusive, and it's try to make it a dialogue and a conversation. And I want everybody to be happy, but I want me to be happy too. So I'm not going to put in anything that I don't feel strongly. And it's not just about the work being, good or bad. It's about it flowing together in the book. It's about not just your work, but the other work that's in the book. I mean, it's 110 photographers, 608 images. And, oh, hey, Ned. Good to see you.
To that, Michael, you talked about maybe doing this again. How would you approach it differently? Because this is a hard thing to follow.
Wait, I'm not going to do another
book?
No, I'm not planning. No. Well, I'm following up with, I've spent now over a year and I love curating, and it's great. And I love giving back too, because, I've, shown, when you're starting out, you don't really know what you're doing. And I've had so many people help me out. So I love being able to help other people out. I love, sending the elevator back down, so to speak. And I take pride that all my shows have veteran photographers who've shown for years, and have many also people who've shown for the first time, and I love helping people out in that way. And same with the book, a lot of veteran photographers and people who've it's first time they've been published, but their work is worthy of it, and it grabs me, and so there's there is the curatorial element to it. But I've spent a lot of time now on this book. Once the show gets up at the Hive, my next project is a casino series I've been shooting for over 20 years. I have 800 images, and that's pared down. I have thousands. Now it's pared down to about 600 to 800 images. And I want to spend a lot of time on the text. I don't know if can you guys see me? There's this.
We see you, yeah.
This is part of my research. I got this old book. A friend of mine who had this recommended him in med school. So I found this vintage book. It's no longer in print. So I'm going to be doing a lot of research on that and interviewing people. So that's going to be my next big project, which I'll switch gears on.
So we have a question from David Freeman. He says, "Were you moved by Hamburger Eyes?"
Yeah, absolutely. I know Ray, and I thank him in the book. And I've been featured in Hamburger Eyes, luckily, thankfully, a couple times. And yeah, I love the irreverence. Again, with what they do. They have at least 2 books that I have. One was through Powerhouse, the other one was through Hat and Beard Press. And yeah, they're based out of the Bay Area originally, but now Ray is in Southern California. He actually went to my rival high school in North County, San Diego. We weren't friends in San Diego, but I met him, through Hamburger Eyes. And absolutely, and everybody here, if you're check out Hamburger Eyes. You can see a lot of the work online. The zines sell for about $20. They're very affordable, but both the books are fantastic.
And who Ned says, a rather boring question, but what do you approach cataloging and organizing all of your books and images? What do you use to catalog?
Yeah, I mean, you have to be organized. So, this is a good lesson for photographers or artists in general. Put your name and hopefully the title in the JPEG. I get so much stuff sent to me that's just like IMG and with a large string of numbers, and maybe your name's in the metadata, but like one time I submitted work back in the analog days. I submitted my portfolio, which had my name on the back, and then when I got it back, someone else's name was on the front because they didn't know, they didn't look at the back, and so they just put the other name on front, on the front. I don't know if he got the job or not, but yeah, you have to just be very clear about your work when you're sending it out. But yeah, I'm very organized through Mac at the Finder level on Mac, a folder for each artist, and then I put the book together in InDesign, which is great. My first book, I meticulously went through. I went to Barnes and Noble down the street, and I just went through, and I found like a book that really grabbed me. Well, it was a combination of two books. The Size was a Lee Friedlander book, and then the layout I liked Bill Owen's Suburbia, so I kind of mimicked that. And I had my designer, who also did the cover, Damon Robinson, to create. When he did the book in InDesign, when he did American Bachelor, I asked him for the template, so I just use the same template now for future books, just because it's like, once you figure out something that works for you, and also it's my style now. So I'll do all my books this way. I like the square format for photography books, for fine art books. It works really well when you have vertical or horizontal orientation. They flow well together on a page. I really like the feel of the book.
You have to shout out Sally.
Oh my God, thank you, Sally Ann Fields. Thank you so much. I think she's here, maybe. She was here earlier.
Sally's here.
Could not have made the book without her. Also, Josh Withers, who's not here, helped me with a lot of the RGB to CMYK conversions and on that end. But the book would not be what it is without Sally Ann Field, who's an incredible designer. Anybody who's looking to do a book should maybe hit her up. She's available. She may be available to help. Thank you, Sally. Absolutely.
And Michael, how did you get the books into such great stores?
Yeah, it was a real sprint to get the book made. Once the show was really about representing 2020, as I mentioned before. The show was in March, and then once I had the idea that I wanted to do the book, I actually had the idea to do the book even before the show, and I thought maybe I could do it before the show and sell the book last March, which was an impossible task. It was going to be a much smaller book. Just doing the show takes a lot of work, So once I shifted gears to really hit the ground running with the book, I knew that I wanted it to come out around the time of the election, which would be November. So, at first I was thinking, let me just do a demo and then see if I could find a publisher who's interested, but everything just takes way longer and costs more money in general. Whenever you try to do something, it takes longer and costs more money. So it just took a lot longer. And I knew that I had this deadline of sometime in November to get the book done. And so the book, I was working with a book broker because the book was printed in Korea. My first book was also done in Korea, but there's some things that got lost in translation between the publisher and the printer. And even now, when I got the book back, there was a lot of stuff written in Korean, notes in Korean and stuff. Obviously, I don't speak Korean, but so anyways, I worked with a broker, and we just had to guess when my release date would be. So I just guessed November 24th because it's my father's birthday and my anniversary. And the books ended up arriving the night of November 23rd, like 5 o'clock, a truck rolled up to my apartment. So it was just a total guess, but it absolutely worked out. And then in terms of getting him into stores, so I didn't really have time to work with the publisher. We're hoping we did a first edition, a run of 2,000 copies. We've sold about 1,200 copies already. So we have about 800 copies left, which we're hoping to sell out by the end of the year. But also we're going to do the show at the Hive. I really want to do exhibits throughout California. I want to do, maybe starting more in 2022 when things open up more. I'd love to do a show in San Diego, one like in the desert, like in Palm Springs, maybe a couple in the Bay Area, maybe one in Huntington Beach. So I really want the show to travel over the next 3-4 years, which I think it will. There's a lot of interest in it. So I'm not too concerned about selling the book out right now, because I want to make sure that I have books to represent the show when these future shows happen. But there is a good chance that the book could sell out. And anyways, I said that because the goal is I don't want to do another edition. So the goal would be to hand it off to a publisher who's interested, because there is interest in the book, and then have a publisher kind of carry it on to do future editions.
That sounds really fabulous.
We've got hands waving, applause, and tons of kudos and happy birthday wishes. Mark and Dick talks about you herding cats, which you certainly did a great job.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's great. I mean, it's so rewarding and fulfilling. And again, it's like I've met so many incredible people, and people who I look up to and still look up to are now my peers and people who I consider friends now. And talk about it was like a perfect COVID project. This is my COVID baby. I started in March, and it was born 9 months later in again November 24th is when it came out. So it's my baby. And now I don't have kids. I'm not planning to have kids, but I'm putting these are my babies. It's my third book, and I'm putting it out into the world. And when I did my first book, and we had a book signing at Book Stoop, and people showed up who I didn't even know, it was like just so fulfilling. Because it's great to have your friends support you, obviously, absolutely. But to have strangers who don't even know you, who just are drawn to your work, I really feel like that's similar to a pride that a parent would have when their kid does something great and they're getting a compliment, about their kid doing something. So, yeah, it's great. I definitely plan to do more books. It might be a while before I do another compilation book like this, just because again, I'm going to do the casino book next. And I have like 5 other concepts of stuff that I've already shot and have. But stay tuned.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Michael.
Okay, Doug.
What are you looking at, Ellen? What do you see?
Oh, I was trying to find Doug's back.
Okay, yeah, Doug's here. Thank you so very much, Michael, and thank you all for being here today. We've got a March 24th event with Open Show LA. It'll be the second part of our Inspire Elevate. And I hope you all show up for that. We've got some of the people. Actually, Dave Freeman is here today, and he'll be on that event.
And
the book.
You can still get one of these if you want to donate. We do need the support. Every $5, $2 does make us go further. There's just teeny weeny little costs that we need to cover. So, yeah. Doug, are you there?
Yeah, I am here. I'm back. Michael, thank you again so much for being with us and bringing all the work with you and your insights into it.
Thank you.
The process that you went through to create it. It's not everybody understands what curators do, so it's great to hear it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd also like to thank everybody else for showing up and being a part of our audience. As Ellen mentioned, we certainly encourage your donations whenever you can. Just go to PasadenaPhotographyArts.org, hit one of the donate buttons, and give what you can. We deeply appreciate it. Thank you, everybody. With that, I wish you a great evening and a great rest of the week. And we hope we'll see you soon at our next event, as Debbie mentioned, which is coming up next month.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
The donation, I see Michael Cross is saying he's having a hard time finding the donate button, but it should be right there, right, Douglas? When you go to the Pasadena Photography Arts page, do you see it, Michael? I see you looking, and we want to help you.
Sorry,
donate.
I was trying to save the chat because I was in the zone. I wanted to say, because people had made notes. I want to read this after we log off.
Yes.
If someone could save the chat, that'd be great.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I can look it up.
Yeah, thank you all again for showing up. Michael, if you need, just reach out.